my beloved friends, to continue his restoration by the cleansing of his word of life, from the Kehillah, Smyrna Yah, Amen. Who changed time? Who changed the days of our life? Who changed the days, their beginning and end? Done by the sword of darkness. Let us read and find out, in these next two verses, one here. In Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, as it is written, He, Anti-Moshiach, will say commands against that of the Most High, and harass the Kawdoshe ones of the Most High. His intent is to change the times and the laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of times. My friends, in the Wycliffe Bible, it talks about YAH'S feasts and laws, in this verse. In the Hebrew Bible, it states, appointed times and laws. KVJ ends with the 21st verse, but later added. But most Bibles printed also end with the 21st verse, so this verse 25 is completely hidden to them. The prophet and visioner, Daniel, is saying the enemy of YAH, who is that old dragon, is to change time, as to when it begins. Written, in the word of YAH. And the evil one, also will change YAH'S Torah, teachings about his set-apart days from all the rest, his days of Shabbat, that is directed against YAH'S elect, in confusion, for they may be into the wrong day, and time. My beloved friends, is this all possible? With the God of this world, Ha Saton, all under the control of his children, the Kenites, and the ones that rebelled against the kingdom of YAH, in the first earth age. Has this event already taken place? Daniel said, he, meaning Ha Saton, intends to do it all, and is determined to go against the Most High. Now let us read the second verse here in Daniel, chapter 12 verse 7, And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand, and his left hand unto heaven, and swore by him, that lives forever, that it shall be for a time, times and a half, when he shall have accomplished, to shatter the powers of the Kawdoshe ones, and put an end to it. This man who is coming soon, dressed in linen, his apparel, that looks like a person of royalty, and looks like the Messiah. But only the Anti-Moshiach, the fake, only to look pure, the counterfeiter, and the impostor, for it is only Ha Saton, with his both hands up, meaning his evil works that he is going to accomplish, in great anger and protest against the kingdom of YAH, for he really means it. That was upon the waters, meaning all nations that he controls in this world, are all under his curse. The rivers mean out of his heart flows evil and judgments against the Most High, and especially his Kawdoshe ones, the elect. Now how is he going to do this? The word naps, only appears in this verse in YAH's inspired word, and means to scatter and disperse them. By breaking them up. Yad is not translated as power in the English and is wrong, for it means to break them up and out of YAH's hands of authority. How is this done? The subject of our study, by changing time of day, and by changing the day to worship YAH, pertaining to his Sabbaths. Though Daniel is told that it would be 3½ years, our Father has shortened this time period to 5 months. Why? We all thank him for that, his elect of 7,000, as per our agreement with him, for serving the kingdom of YAH, during the rebellion of Ha Saton, in the first earth age. As Yahushua explains this to Yohanan, in the book of Revealing by YAH to his elect, chapter 9, verses 5 and 10, for the love of the elect's sake, toward their brothers, in the first earth age, otherwise are no flesh, meaning the weakness of the body, against the deceiver, by one being in a flesh body, will not be spared or Yoshua, saved, from Kate, their sins, in a 3½ year period of time, all under the fake, that will only deceive them all, in the world. Now for today, Anti-Moshiach has been building his one-world system of control, by his children in the world. However, we see it, shortly failing, and almost destroyed, prior to Anti-Moshiach, Ha Saton's coming. But the impostor will restore it, in its collapsed state. His system that is controlled by one, meaning him, Ha Saton, with his fallen angels, during the Kawdoshe or Vav, sixth trumpet sounding, as in 666, and we all say, Alleluia. Let us ask this question: when does the day begin according to the inspired word of Yahuwah? Many believe that a 24-hour time frame is reckoned from evening to evening, meaning from sunset to sunset. Is this correct? First, a 24-hour time period is not mentioned at all in Yah's inspired word. But Yahushua did teach us about a 12-hour day. Do you know when this 12-hour day begins? We also have been taught by men that the Sabbath begins on the sunset on Friday evening, until the sunset on Saturday evening. The term even and evening are defined by men as sunset, or is it the whole dark period of night? Now, is this correct, and what does Yahuwah's inspired word have to say? Before we do that, don't forget that Daniel just told us that Ha Saton is going to change our Father's time, and his Yom Kawdoshe, meaning his separated day, from all the rest, his Sabbaths, which is regulated by using someone's yearly calendar. Whose calendar are you going to use to undertake this important day? And it is your own responsibility to make sure you are following the correct Kawdoshe days. Which calendar are you using today? Is it the correct one? Do you know for sure? My beloved friends, before we continue with our study, this very important message is for all Bible readers and students of Yah's inspired word. Beware. The children of Cain, their father Ha Saton. These evil ones, the bad seeds in the world, are known as expert wordsmiths. They are word creators, these word and ink slingers, for they are known to be the coiners of the written biblical text. For they all have one goal in mind, as directed by their evil father, is to deceive them all in the world, by changing a word, here and there, as to its real meanings. They are also known to add and even omit words, so beware. For one has to be led by our Heavenly Father, Yah, through his Ruach from above, and by going back to the original Hebrew text, in order to find these errors, by Ha Saton's children in the world. Don't ever forget, the Kenites' father did the same to Eve, in the garden, and once again, by trying to fool our own Moshiach, Messiah, while he was fasting for 40 days, in the desert. So then be on your toes, at all times, my friends, as we all say, Alleluia. Now let us read the Book of Beginnings. Hara, Beginnings, in Berah, Sheth. Chapter 1, verses 3 to 5. Verse 3, and Elohim said, let light come to be, and light came to be. Verse 4, and Elohim saw the light, that it was good. And Elohim separated the light from their darkness. Verse 5, and Elohim called the light day, and their darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning. Day 1. Here in this 5th verse, we are going to look at, and cleanse by his Ruach, from the works of evil men, my beloved friends. As his restoration continues, in the name of our Father, Yahuwah, and his Ben, Yahushua. The spoken word, to all in the world, that truly love him, and his teachings, in the pure, clean, inspired word, of life, and not the dead words of these evil translators, about our only kingdom, of the loving Yah, that is directed to his loving children, in this world and the new world to come, and we all say, Alleluia. Now let us look at the evening and the morning. Many Sabbath keepers have come to this conclusion, that these 5 words listed in this phrase above are correct, as per their printed Bibles tell them so, and they also personally proclaim it to be true. That the evening came, the start of the day, and then came to be the morning, from evening to evening, is a day. Is that correct, as to time to start and end a day, by its evenings, or are they all fooled, and deceived by Ha Saton, as he changes the time of the day? In fact he reverses the time, as to the pure and true facts of Yahushua inspired word. Don't ever forget, Daniel, a true prophet of Yah, has warned us before time, in 2 of his special verses, in the beginning, that Ha Saton is going to change our Father's time in all his matters of days, Amen. Now let us look at this picture illustration. In Berah, Sheth, 1 verse 5b. And the evening and the morning were the first day. First we must examine the word evening. Evening and morning as shown. This portion of scripture is one everyone wonders about. Doesn't it say, right there, that evening comes first? Now let us read there. Original KJV wording in Genesis 1, 5b, reads as follows, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Let's note, that scripture does not state that night H39:15, and morning, constitute a day, but evening, H61:53, and morning constitutes a day. This is important to understand. Please clear your mind from preconceived ideas, and follow along with the biblical explanation being given. Evening H61:53, does not, and cannot, refer to night, H39:15. But is in fact referring to the period of time between high noon, and the point of darkness, which is night. Remember, the evening, and the morning are part of the day season, and not part of darkness, the night season. We now know that the morning, and the evening, belong to the day season. Now what is sunrise? It occurs for only an instant, the moment at which the upper limb of the sun appears tangent to the horizon. However, the term sunrise commonly refers to periods of time both before and after this point. Twilight, the period in the morning during which the sky is light but the sun is not yet visible, is called dawn, another mixing of light and darkness. It is our intention to present as much proof as possible to support this position that the Sabbath begins at dawn, not at sunset. The Sabbath worship hours close with the darkness of night. The full 24 hours of the Sabbath closes at the last moment before the dawn of the next morning. See Matthew 28, verse 1 for review. That would be the morning of the first day of the week. What did Yahushua say about the day? In Yohanan, John 11, verse 9, Yahushua answered, Hath not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbleth not, because he seeth the light of this world. Logical reasoning, therefore, the night season would also have 12 hours to complete the full 24-hour cycle. There, terms day season and night season are only used to explain our study. Boker, H1242, dawn, as the break of a day, generally, morning, KJV, early morning, morrow, that is a mixture of light and darkness. Dawn, the break of day. The first appearance of light in the morning. My beloved friends, now let us look at the word dawn, and its meaning. Also we all use Jerusalem time, not your time, in one accord for all the nations of the earth, as we honor and praise Elohim, on his special day, Amen. Dawn, meaning dawn, early morning, is Boker in Hebrew. Begins the seventh day. Day is Yom, in Hebrew. For all the nations on the earth, as dawn becomes a 24-hour period, from dawn to dawn, that is allocated to all the nations. The Sabbath day goes forth from Jerusalem, making their dawn time be the beginning, and the same Sabbath day for all nations on the earth. Note, my beloved friends, not your own time in your part of the world, as we once were taught by corrupted men. We pray that you all correct your time to Yerushalayim, time from now on. Dawn is considered the beginning of morning twilight, the period of twilight, before the time of sunrise, Amen. Light was created first, then evening follows. After evening turned to darkness, night followed. What is the difference between dawn and dusk? Do you know? Well, dawn is the beginning light of the day, Boker, in Hebrew is the early light, as called twilight, and dusk is the ending light of the day, in Hebrew, Neshef, meaning twilight dawn, 2 times, dusk, 1 time in Jeremiah 13, verse 16, evening, 1 time, twilight, 8 times is used in the Bible, which could be in the early morning or the ending of the light of the day. They are both part of the light of the day, both called twilight, and appears at opposite times of the day. They both range in time, over 1 hour, before sunrise, and before the night begins. Dawn is the time of day when light first appears, before sunrise, as seen at the horizon. While dusk is the time of the day, after the late evening, when the sun sets, just before it waxes dark, meaning the time it takes for light to disappear, as the warm wax hardens, and then comes the darkness of the night. Yahushua taught us, the daylight consists of 12 hours. First hour, 6 a.m., third hour, 9 a.m., sixth hour, noon, and the 9th hour, 3 p.m. Now 2 of those hours make up in time, with dawn and dusk, belonging to the light of the day, each being an hour in time. If we are using a 12-hour clock in Jerusalem, dawn would be the first hour, and dusk would be the 11th hour of light in the day. Now 6 o'clock, on a 12-hour scale, would be high noon, the warmest part of the day. Midday, the Hebrew for evening is Arib, and Neshef, in Hebrew means twilight dawn and twilight dusk. Then evening is after high noon, or midday, called the eve of the day. What we call our afternoon, in Old English, was called eventide. Using the 12-hour clock, the 9th hour would fall at 3 p.m., our time. And when the 6th hour was come, there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour. Meaning, at noon, darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock. We will cover this subject shortly in our study, for full understanding, about the crucifixion of Yahushua, our Moshiach, our Melech HaMoshiach of Yisrael, Amen. Let us look at this illustration, Berah, Sheth, 1 verse 5c, and the morning were the first day. Number 1, light was created first, 2, evening follows, 3, night follow evening, 4, morning begins the new cycle of number 1, light. Here is the point, my beloved friends, when the night was over, the morning followed. Day 1 is complete at dawn, Amen. Here are some problems with the translations of men, through Ha Saton. These words, and, the problem word. Now were, is translated wrong, which we spoke about in verse 2 in Bereshith. In our previous study, the word was, as the earth was void. Now let us look at this verse in Bereshith 1, 5, and Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening, and the morning were the first day. Now to explain, in the white box. First, there are 4 and words in this verse. Second, problem the and word, that is in red, as seen above. It is an added word, by the translators, and not in the Hebrew text. Should read as, evening the morning. Third point, the word, were, in green, H 1961, is properly translated as, became, the first day. We pray that our explanation, and correction, as his Ruach, leads us into one accord, of understanding of Yah's truth, Amen. The rendition with their H 1961 definition followed. Following makes good sense and the best sense. The evening following the morning became the first day, light season. This is talking about the hours of daylight only. It is talking about the morning, up to high noon, and the evening, noon to dusk, or the afternoon following the forenoon. This is a day season, or 12 daylight hours. No night is involved. My beloved friends, in the next frame, we will be using another translation of this verse, that will support a 24-hour cycle, including the day season and night season. Here is the rendition from the Good News Bible, our first study Bible used in 1976, and he named the light day and the darkness night. Evening passed and morning came, that was the first day. In this translation, we have a 24-hour cycle, including a full day and a full night following the day. Think about it, the evening cannot come and pass, unless there is daylight first, and the morning cannot come unless it follows a night first. First comes the evening, at the end of the day, and then comes the morning, at the end of the night. Here it is, my beloved friends, all restored, as it once was in the very beginning. As we read it together, for the kingdom of YAH, Berah, Sheth 1, verse 5, and he named the light day, and the darkness, night, evening passed and morning came, that became the first day. Amen. Now in this translation we have a 24-hour cycle. The light of the day includes the evening passes into the night, and the morning came into the light. That became the first day. And we all say, Alleluia. We all praise him, our Elohim, for opening our eyes and ears to our new understanding about his day. Amen. Now that we all understand the 12-hour clock of the light of the day, let us go over the time period of our Melech, HaMoshiach, being the Paschal, sacrificial Lamb of Yah, for all of us that belong to the kingdom of Yahuwah and Yahushua his Ben, and we all say, Alleluia. And when the 6th hour was come, there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour. Meaning, at noon, darkness fell across the whole land until 3rd hour, on the 12-hour daylight clock. Now it was the 3rd hour, 9 a.m., and they crucified him. In Mark 15, verse 25. We now have the biblical record that Melech, HaMoshiach, was crucified beginning at the 3rd hour, being 9 a.m., the ordinary time for the daily morning sacrifice. Now when the 6th hour came, noon had come, there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour, 3 p.m. Now let us read this verse in Mark 15, verse 34, in the Hebrew for better understanding. And at the 9th hour, he cried out in a kol gadol, loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani? Which means, being translated, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani? My Elohim, why have you forsaken me? This verse, that he is speaking, his last teachings to us, comes from Tehillim, Psalms, 22. And Melech, HaMoshiach, cried out with a loud voice, and breathed his last. Mark 15, verses 33 to 34, and 37. Now Melech, HaMoshiach, died on the cross by virtue of commanding his spirit to leave his body at the 9th hour, 3 p.m., the time of the evening sacrifice. Inasmuch as no creature truly possessed authority to slay the Melech, HaMoshiach, he himself slew the Lamb of Yahuwah, by commanding his spirit to leave his body. 2 reasons why he chose the 9th hour, 3 p.m. 1. The 9th hour, 3 p.m., was the hour of prayer, when the Jews went into the temple at the daily evening sacrifice, and this was the usual time for slaying the Passover sacrifice. 2. Of even greater significance, when Yah, our Father instituted the Passover, he commanded that the Paschal Lamb should be slain on the 14th day, Passover, at evening, that is, during the time after the sun passed its zenith, 3 p.m., and extending until sunset. Yahushua said, I lay down my life that I may take it again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. Yohanan, John 10, verses 17 and 18. The body without the spirit is dead. Jacob, James 2, verse 26. Now Kepha and Yohanan went up together to the temple at the hour of prayer, the 9th hour, Masa, Malachiah. Acts 3, verse 1. Now you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Yisrael shall kill it at evening. Shemoth 12, verse 6, Amen. My friends, back to our study. Dawn is the perfect design of Yahuwah, and Yahushua, his Ben, and applied it this way at creation. All we need to do is accept what is written, and the way it is. Written with rejoicing, by saying Alleluia. Now let us look at Yahuwah's covenant to Abram, which is recorded in Bereshith 15. In the Book of Beginnings 15. Abram in covenant with Yahuwah. In Bereshith 15. After this, the word of Yah came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, Sovereign Father, what can you give me since I remain childless and the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. Then the word of Yah came to him, This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh, and blood will be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. Then he said to him, So shall your offspring be. Abram believed the Yah, and he credited it to him as righteousness. He also said to him, I am your master, who brought you out of of the Chaldeans, to give you this land to take possession of it. But Abram said, Sovereign Father, how can I know that I will gain possession of it? So he then said to him, Bring me a heifer, a goat and a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon. Abram brought all these to him, cut them in two and arranged the halves opposite each other. The birds, however, he did not cut in half. 11 Then birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. My friends, when one studies, and discovers that this covenant between Yah and Abram was made during the start of Yah's year, more specifically on the 14th day of the first month, which later was known as Passover. Abram prepared the 5 sacrifices, about 3 p.m. time, which was the set time for the evening sacrifices. While Abram was waiting for Yah to fulfill his part of the covenant agreement, the birds of prey hovered continually over the sacrifices, indicating this was indeed the daylight season. It was not yet dark, as the birds had not gone to roost yet. Then it states in verse 12, that Abram fell into a deep sleep, when the sun was going down. A sleep induced by Yah, he received the vision, telling him that his descendants would be foreigners, meaning Kenites, and immigrants in the land that does not belong to them for 400 years, but Yah will judge the nations, and will bring his offspring forth with lots of wealth. As the sun was setting, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness came over him. Then Yah said to him, Know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated there. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possessions. You, however, will go to your ancestors in peace, and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. When the sun had set, and darkness had fallen, a smoking firepot with a blazing torch appeared, and passed between the pieces. On that day Yah made a covenant with Abram and said, To your descendants I give this land, from the Wadi of Mitzrayim to the great river, the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, Kenizzites, Cadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Rephaites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites and Jebusites, Amen. Then in Bereshith, 15, verse 17, Yah complete the covenant, for it states, "And it came to pass, that, when the sun went down, and it was dark, behold a smoking furnace, and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces." This was the two parts covenant, agreement. First part, Abram's performed during the light season. Second part, Yah, performed during the night season. This two-part covenant took place on the same 24-hour cycle, in the day, not over a period of 2 days. This proves that the night was following the 3 p.m. sacrifice. And most important, my friends, was part of the 24-hour cycle of the 14th day of Abib, the first month Oman. Now let's compare what took place 430 years later, when the Israelites and the great multitude left Egypt, Mitzrayim. Shemoth, Exodus 12, verse 41, "And it came to pass, at the end of the 430 years, even the self-same day, meaning in one day, it came to pass, that all the hosts of Yahuwah, our Father, went out from the land of Mitzrayim." Shemoth, 12, verse 51, "And it came to pass, the self-same day, once again all in one day, that Yahuwah, our Father, did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Mitzrayim by their armies." And herein, Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah 34, verse 15, "Thus saith Yahuwah, our Father, the Elohim of Israel. I made a covenant with your fathers, in the day that, once again a day, that I brought them forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, the forechild of Ham, out of the house of bondmen. Amen." Let's read Shemoth, Exodus 12, verses 1 to 10. 1 And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, and to Aharon in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, "To this month is the beginning of months for you, it is the first month of the year for you. 3 Speak to all the congregation of Yisrael, saying, On the 10th day of this month each one of them is to take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. 4 And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the beings, according to each man's need you make your count for the lamb. 5 Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year-old male. Take it from the sheep or from the goats. 6 And you shall keep it until the 14th, Yom, day of the same, Kodesh, month. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Yisrael shall kill it between the evenings. The midday, the Hebrew for good evening is, Arib, Dof, midday, good morning is, Bokadof, from early light to midday, and good night is, Layladof, total darkness. Now evening is after high noon, or midday, called the eve of the day, like the Hebrew, good evening is, Erefdof, like our afternoon, in Old English was called, eventide, till Boker, to dawn. 7 And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel of the houses where they eat it. 8 And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire, with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. 9 Do not eat it raw, nor boiled at all with water, but roasted in fire, its head with its legs and its inward parts. 10 And do not leave of it until morning, and what remains of it until morning you are to burn with fire. And we all say, Alleluia. My beloved friends, we have 3 verses that have to be broken down. Don't take them for granted. We have to go back to the Hebrew root words, and Strong's does not have divine authority or the power to define. Only his Ruach, the separated from all the rest, Spirit of Yah, can lead us, as Yahushua teaches, our Father's full understanding, in one accord. For our Father is the only author of his written inspired word of life, and not by any man, including the deceiver, Ha Saton, Amen. in debris, Hayamin, 2, here is where you find in these two books, the annal, records of events year by year, of time. Now in 2 Chronicles 31, verse 3, he appointed also the king's portion of his substance for the burnt offerings, to wit for the morning, and evening, meaning the eve of the day, burnt offerings, and the burnt offerings for Sabbaths, and new months, not new moons as written, as changed by the Kenite scribes. The wordsmiths, for we are the children of the light, and not the night, should be, Ereb, meaning the eve of the day, 3 p.m., when the evening sacrifice took place, for the Kenites have written in the sacred text, YAH, Ereb, meaning to bark, yelp, as a little dog with a big woof, in the evening, just like Ha Saton. This was the giveaway word, and only appears here in this verse, in your Bible. So then keep breaking down these words, and compare them to YAH's inspired word, as we continue, and for the set feasts, as it is written in the Torah of life, by Yahuwah. Ezra, meaning help, 3, verse 3, and they set the altar upon his bases, for fear was upon them because of the people of those countries, and they offered burnt offerings thereon unto Yahuwah, our Master, even burnt offerings morning, and evenings. My friends, only at this time, morning and midday, after high noon, the eve of the day, based upon the 12-hour clock, of the light of the day, as Yahushua was both our early morning, at 9 a.m., and the eve of the day, after high noon, the middle of the day, afternoon, our 3 p.m., these sacrifices took place. So then make the necessary corrections, my friends, and we all say, Alleluia. Here is Strong's NASB translation, Psalm 65, verse 8. And they that dwell in the ends shall dread of thy signs, thou shalt delight the outgoings of the morrow died and eventide. And they who live at the ends of the earth shall be filled with awe at thy signs, thou even makest the morning and the evening to have delight at what thou hast done. Tehillim, Psalm 65, verse 8, in the Wycliffe's Bible reads, And they that dwell in the ends shall dread of thy signs, thou shalt delight the outgoings, of the morrow tide, tomorrow's dawn, and the eventide. My friends, this is still part of the day. The hours of the light during the day. The outgoings of tomorrow's dawn, the twilight, to evening, dusk's twilight. The 12 hours of the day, on the special day, as Yahushua taught us, his elect, and the 144,000 coming in this last generation. The New Living Translation, those who live at the ends of the earth stand in awe of your wonders. From where the sun rises to where it sets, you inspire shouts of joy, O Main. Shemoth, Exodus 1, verse 14 states this Passover meal was an ordinance to be kept forever. The meal was to eaten on Passover day, at twilight, after sunset, O Main. In other words, my friends, the Israelites were to kill the lamb in the afternoon, at the regularly scheduled time of 3 p.m., or, between the evenings, on the 14th day, and eat it that night, which was still reckoned with the 14th. Furthermore, none of the Passover lamb was to remain until the morning, H 1242, or until the morrow, H 1242. My friends, what does these other writings of Yah have to say? In the Book of Jubilees 49, verses 10 to 13. Let the children of Israel come, and observe the Passover on the day of its fixed time, on the 14th day of the first month, between the evenings, from the third part of the day, to the third part of the night. 11, for 2 portions of the day are given to the light, and a third part to the evening. 12, this is that which our Father commanded thee that thou shouldst observe it, between the evenings. And it is not permissible to slay it during any period of the light, but during the period bordering on the evening, and let them eat it at the time of the evening, until the third part of the night. 13, and whatever is left over of all its flesh from the third part of the night and onwards, let them burn it with fire. My friends, How clear is that? We pray you have the understanding. Amen. Let us cover these 5 verses, for more backup, beginning with Shemoth, Exodus 12, verse 10, and you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remains of it until the morning, you shall burn with fire. In Devarim, Deuteronomy 16, verse 7, and thou shalt roast and eat it in the place Yahuwah, thy Elohim, shall choose, and thou shalt turn back in the morning and go back to thy tents. In Tehillim, Psalm 113, verse 3, from the rising of the sun to its going down, Yahuwah's name shall be praised. Malachi, from Yah, his messenger, his angel, brought forth, in Malachi 1, verse 11, for from the rising of the sun to its going down, my name is the greatest among the nations, and in every place offerings are brought in my name, it shall be pure offerings, for my name is the greatest among the nations, says Yahuwah of hosts. In Tehillim, Psalm 50, verse 1 and 2, the Elohim, of Elohims, Yahuwah, has spoken and proclaimed to the earth, from the rising of the sun to its going down, 2, that from Zion, the perfection and beauty of Elohim shines forth. My friends, it all shines forth from Zion, no other place on his earth. Amen. My friends, now the term evening is part of the day. Evening, dawn, and evening, dusk, are the parts of the day that are separation periods, created to make a division, in between night and day. One part, evening dawn, escorts the light in, for the day to begin, and one part, evening dusk, escorts the light out, for the night to begin, and evening is basically the divider, in between day and night, that separates the day from the night. When the biblical text said day, like in Sabbath day, it means only the period of light, also explains this, as we just learned. In the Book of Beginnings, Bereshith 1, verses 4 and 5, and Elohim saw the light, that it was good, and he separated between the light and the darkness. 5, and Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And evening passed and morning came, that became the first day. This verse 5, in the Kawdoshe text, is a continual subject of the day, both the light portion and the night portion. So why do people break it up? For it composes the complete day, with all its parts, both light and night, and their separation periods, as we break down his inspired word, with the help of his Ruach, that teaches us all things. For Yah, our heavenly Father, said to us, look what man has done. Man destroyed the first earth age, billions of years ago, and will also destroy the replenished earth, as well, to come. Amen. Long before the biblical texts were written, the Sumerian texts were etched in stone around 3000 BCE, and they show that the seventh day was in the daytime, from dawn to dusk. They would not even mourn over their dead on the seventh day, during the daytime. In the Sumerian story of Noah's flood, it shows that even the forces of nature stopped working, on the seventh day, during the daytime. Amen. In the book of Yeshayahu, Isaiah 2, verse 3, and many peoples shall come, and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahuwah, to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways and that we may walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of Yahuwah, from Jerusalem. Not any other place in the entire world, my friends. Yerushalayim is the only place in the world, where the timing begins for the Sabbath day, at dawn. For example, the sun rises over the Jerusalem area first and travels westward, rising over Egypt, then Libya, then Algeria, then over the Atlantic Ocean to rise over New York, continuing to California, then Hawaii, then Japan, then China, then Afghanistan, then Iran, and then the sun rises over the Jerusalem area again to begin the next day, where dawn continues moving westward around the earth to begin the next day for all the nations on earth. And don't ever forget it, my friends, and we say, Alleluia. between the evenings, bin ha'arbaim. What does this mean? These Hebrew words are first used in Shemoth 12, verse 6. And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Yisrael shall kill it. 996, bin, in their evening, H 6153 Arbaim. Although most resources mention many interpretations of bin ha'arbaim, they mostly seem to agree that it means the time between noon and darkness. It is also interesting to point out that a lot of the commentaries point to 3 p.m. in the afternoon, or the Hebrew 9th hour of the day. Which brings us back to Yahushua's time of death, when he gave us his Ruach, his Spirit, Amen. Between the evenings at the cross. High noon, evening begins, 3 p.m., between the evenings, dusk, evening ends. The second witness, Debri Hayim in 2 Chronicles, 35 verses 1, 13, 14 and 16. 1. And Yoshua, Josiah, performed the Passover to Yahuwah, in Yerushalayim, and they slaughtered the Passover on the 14th day of the first month. 13. So they roasted the Passover offerings with fire according to the right ruling, and they boiled the set-apart offerings in pots, and in cauldrons, and in bowls, and brought them speedily to all the lay people. 14. And afterward they prepared for themselves and for the priests, because the priests, the sons of Aaron, were offering burnt offerings and fat until night. So the Levites, prepared for themselves and for the priests, the sons of Aaron. 16. And all the service of Yahuwah was prepared that day, to perform the Passover and to offer burnt offerings on the altar of Yahuwah, according to the command of sovereign Yoshua. Remember, the angel of death passed over the same night. It passed over on Passover day, at midnight, which was still on the hours of 14th cycle, and not the beginning of the 15th, or the next cycle, to celebrate the feast of unleavened bread. Properly, Yahuwah commands unleavened bread must be eaten with Passover supper from evening of the day before, meaning specifically on the 14th day. Not as we all have been taught, by corrupted and evil men. For his inspired tells us so, Shemoth, Exodus 12, verse 18, he specific commands us, to begin eating unleavened bread on the 14th day of the month, at even, yet the feast of unleavened bread does not begin until the morning of the 15th of Abib, Wayikra, Leviticus 23, verse 6. There are similar patterns for the weekly Sabbaths, the feast Sabbaths, especially the Day of Atonement. Leviticus 23, verses 26 to 32. For all are in error, by the Kenite scribes of Ha Saton. So then follow the pattern of our father, and his Ben, the writer and keeper of his father's words of instruction, and not men, as we all say Alleluia. Now for the Day of Atonement, 10th day and 7th month. Wayikra, Leviticus 23, verses 26, 27 and 32. 26. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, 27. On the 10th day of this 7th month is the Day of Atonement. It shall be a set-apart gathering for you. And you shall afflict your beings, and shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahuwah. 32. In Hebrew, it shall be unto you a Shabbaton, and ye shall afflict your nefashot, souls, in the 9th day of the month at Ereb, after high noon, during the light of the day, the afternoon sacrifice, 3 p.m., from Ereb, unto Ereb, shall ye observe your Shabbos. It takes place here, during the light of the day, not in the night, meaning after high noon, during the time of the afternoon sacrifice, as Yahushua did at this time, when he gave up his Ruach, the only acceptable sacrifice, as the Lamb of Yah, and we all say, Alleluia. My beloved friends, here are the Sabbath requirements. If we are to honor the Kawdoshe Sabbath hour, One of the first requirements is to work 6 days, then rest the 7th day. By using the proper calendar of YAH, all based on Yerushalayim time of day. Pattern for work days: work during the light season hours, rest during the night season. Pattern for the Sabbath day: worship during the light season hours, rest during the night season hours. No restrictions/requirements on types of food other than clean food listed in the Torah that could be eaten. On the 7th day Sabbath feast. Unless outline in our specific food patterns in the feast's next topic. Here are the food patterns in the feasts. Every feast day has a specific food pattern. Let's examine them briefly. Passover: unleavened bread was commanded to be eaten the evening of the 14th day, before the feast of unleavened bread began. Unleavened bread was commanded to eaten for this 7-day feast. Pentecost: 2 barley loaves were waved before the Father. This was leavened bread. Trumpets: in preparation for the Day of Atonement, many usually chose to deny themselves some sweet treat for the 40 days before atonement, usually apples dipped in honey. Tabernacles: no restrictions on what could be eaten of the clean food listed in the Torah. My beloved friends, the Day of Atonement has 2 specific requirements. Both are referred to 3 times each, which we will cover next. Now for the Day of Atonement requirement. 26. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying. 27. On the 10th day of this 7th month is the Day of Atonement. It shall be a set-apart gathering for you. And you shall afflict your beings, and shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahuwah. The second requirement is, afflict your soul. 27. And you shall, number 1, afflict your beings, and shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahuwah. 29. For any being who is, number 2, not afflicted on that same day, he shall be cut off from his people. 32. It is a Sabbath of rest to you, and number 3, you shall afflict your beings. On the 9th day of the month at morning, from morning to morning, you observe your Sabbath. Now what does it mean to afflict one's soul? My friends, how does one afflict your souls? Wayikra, Leviticus 23, verses 26, 27. 26. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying. 27. On the 10th day, my friends, at the beginning at dawn, of this 7th month is the Day of Atonement. Yeshayahu, Isaiah 58, verse 3. Wherefore have we fasted, wherefore have we afflicted our soul? Fasted is H6684, to cover, the mouth, to fast. Acts 27, verse 9, sailing was now dangerous, because their Day of Atonement, fast was now already past. Fast G35:21, abstinence of food, specifically, the fast of the Day of Atonement. To afflict one's soul, for the Day of Atonement means a celebration of no food and water. On what day? On the 9th day, of the 7th month, at even, meaning sunset, night twilight, from even to even, you observe your Sabbath. Wayikra, Leviticus 23, verse 32. Now the purpose for the beginning the fast on the 9th day. When the fast began at even, 12 hours before dawn, morning, the soul was sure to be afflicted, for the hours of Day of Atonement, until the fast was completed at the even, 24 hours later. Let us just recap these days and times of these Kawdoshe days. On these scrolls, in order to remember my friends, all of his Sabbaths, including his Kawdoshe days are in Yerushalayim time, using both the daylight and night clock. 12 hours in the daylight, as Yahushua taught us, to clear up this point, and the night hours, of 12, starting at the end of dusk, all in one accord, as in above, with the kingdom of YAH, and here on his earth, O main. The actual Day of Atonement date is in Leviticus 23, the 10th day, note, beginning at dawn, of the 7th month, is a day of atonement. Now for the atonement affliction, celebration time, is the 9th day, of the same month, the 7th. But the affliction time, meaning, fasting time, starts on the 9th day. Meaning at the end of dusk, as night time begins, and the fast ends the next day, at the end of dusk, on the 10th day, being a full 24-hour cycle of time, my friends. The purpose for beginning the fast on the 9th day. When the fast began, 12 hours before dawn, the 12-hour night, our rest time, the soul was sure to be afflicted, for the hours of the Day of Atonement. Until the fast was completed 24 hours later on the 10th day, with the end of the feast Day of Atonement. Now let us learn the comparison of patterns for Passover and Atonement. Passover celebrate with unleavened bread, on the even of the 14th day, of the first month. At twilight dawn. The first light of the day, that follows the time, as Yahushua taught us, the daylight hours of a day, from dawn to dawn, my beloved friends. Now for the Day of Atonement, which has two parts. First we celebrate with a total fast, of 24 hours, in the same, 7th month, beginning at the ending of the day, on the 9th, and we continue our fast time, to Sabbath feast day, of Atonement, on the 10th, and end our fasting as the day ends, the night, being a full 24 hours, and we all say, Alleluia. My friends, many use Leviticus 23 verse 32, as proof the Sabbaths begins at sunset. Thinking this is the same as the word even, however the thinking individual will realize these verses prove the exact opposite. It's the fast that begins at even, at night, not the feast Sabbath, which began at dawn. For they are all blind to Yahushua's truth, and don't know when Yah's Sabbaths begin, Amen. Let us read, in the Hebrew, to English translation, Shemoth, Exodus 14, verses 21 and 22. Then Moshe stretched out his yad, hand, over the Yam, the sea, and Elohim caused the Yam, the sea, to go back by a strong east wind, all, kal, meaning everything that, Halela, night, so that the Yam, the sea was made dry land, and the Mayim, the waters were divided. And the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, then went into the middle of the Yam, the sea upon the Yabasha, dry land, and the Mayim, the waters were a chama, a wall, unto them on their right, and on their left, Amen. The promise from Yahuwah was, he would literally demonstrate to the Hebrew people his physical salvation, and the Hebrews were able to see his action taking place before their eyes. For the following reasons. 1. The Malach, angel of Yahushua, relocating to the rear of the camp. In the light season, during the day, will be cleared up, my friends. 2. Moshe, stretching out his arms, to command the east wind. 3. The strong wind dividing the waters. 4. The miraculous corridor, being exposed, drying a path across, the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds, what we call the Red Sea. 5. The towering walls, of water on either side, while hurrying to the other shore, during the night season, is in question here, we will correct, my friends. 6. The sea water crashing together, enveloping the doomed Mitzrayim, Egyptians, in the morning of the next day. Yahuwah was indeed showing his salvation, to the terrified Hebrews that day, or is it night? We will clear these, very important matters, in Shemoth, Exodus, Amen. Here it is my friends, in Shemoth, Exodus 14, verses 24 and 25, in the Hebrew, to English translation. So it came to pass, that when came the watch, of the boker, of the morning, Yah looked down on the Makane, army Mitzrayim through the Amadish, pillar of fire, and of the Anan, the cloud, and they panicked, the Makane army of the Mitzrayim. And he took off, wheels from their chariots, that they drove with difficulty, so that the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the face of the earth of Yisrael, for Yahuwah fights for them, against the Mitzrayim Egyptians." My friends, here is your corrections. In verse 24, the word, Boker, is the watch in the morning. The pillars of fire, and the cloud, as the Mitzrayim panicked, as they all will, during the sixth trumpet, as Yah protects his two witnesses, with his cloud once again, and we all say Alleluia. This took place just before dawn, meaning within the 24-hour cycle Moses had promised. Amen. My beloved friends, all of the events that occurred, from the light season of promise, spoken by Moshe, until the minutes just before the dawn of the morning, were unfolding within Yahuwah's time, from today that started with the conversation between Moses and Yahuwah. Moshe reached his hand out over the sea, and by the dawn, the sea had returned to its former depth. The Mitzrayim Egyptians tried to flee, but Elohim swept them into the sea. Shemoth, Exodus 14 verse 27. This was the final act of salvation for the Hebrew people at dawn. Amen. Who changed the days of our life? Now we all know, Ha Saton, all through his evil children, the rebelling sages and scribes, all by their hands, with a pen filled with evil ink. All have been deceived by them all in the world, thinking they were directed by Elohim, yes, the God of this world. The fake and impostor, who always wanted to be like the Most High, for evil reasoning against the elect of Yah, in order to disperse and scatter them in the world, and out of the hands of our Heavenly Father, Yahuwah, and his Ben, Yahushua, our kingdom belonging to Yah. As the prophet Daniel, meaning El is my judge, told us, his election, beforehand, and my beloved friends, we all say, Alleluia. Now who changed the Kawdoshe days, his Sabbaths, on Yah's calendar? That was engraved on one of the tablets of stone, given to Moshe, at Mount Sinai, and is to be used forever and ever. Amen. Now let us clear up this point, so please open your ears. My friends, the general opinion of modern scholars, is that the name Sinai, is derived from the name of the Babylonian moon, their god of sin. Mount Sinai, is often referred to as the mountain, that is, the mountain par excellence, the mountain of Elohim, and the mountain of Yahuwah, and in many other passages in the Bible, it is called Horeb. The biblical text, indeed, seems to indicate that this last was its proper name, while Sinai was applied to the desert. According to one theory, Sinai and Horeb are the names of two eminences belonging to the same range. If this be so, the range became prominent in the history of the Hebrews, sometime before the promulgation of the law. When Moshe led the flocks of his father-in-law to the desert and came to the mountain of Yah, even to Horeb, an angel appeared to him from a flaming bush, and then Yah himself spoke to Moshe, telling him that where he stood was Kawdoshe ground, thus foreshadowing the great event that was to occur there. From that mountain Yah persuaded Moshe to go to Pharaoh and deliver the Israelites from his yoke. After the Exodus, when the Israelites who had encamped at Rephidim were suffering with thirst, Moshe, by command of Yah, smote water from a rock in Horeb. Amen. Now, do you all know who changed time? Man did, for going against their Heavenly Father, and his kingdom. As he created from the very beginning, both his heaven and his earth, all to be in one accord, in time of prayer and praising our Elohim, both of them, Yahuwah, and his Ben, Yahushua, so be it, and it shall be done, and we all say, Amen. Today in the world, most Christians use the Roman calendar, that begins a day at midnight, the darkest part of the 24-hour cycle of the calendar day. Most Jews use the lunisolar calendar, which begins at the end of sunset, the night, from night to night, begins their day. Now some follow just the solar sun, while others just the moon. All are calculated and designed by man, For some of them don't line up when a day begins, or rebels against Yah's kingdom, and for this reason, my friends, they are all blind, and completely wrong, will never get it right, as Yah's inspired text exposes them, as to their calendar of days and months, pertaining to our fathers' Sabbaths, and Kawdoshe feast days, throughout his year of 364 days, Amen. So then, let us clear up this very important point, with the help of Yah's Kawdoshe, Ruach, his separated from all the rest, spirit. Where all in the world miss the mark for the correct time of day in the calendar that was given to Enoch by our father Yahuwah through his angels, and they had the direct responsibility to watch over it from particular station locations as the sun moved across the heavens in a day, month, and year, and as its continuation, meaning from the beginning of time to its end, all recorded down, and certainly not by any earthly man. It was all set in motion, as the Creator laid it out, with his eternal wisdom and everlasting design. All calculated by his hand, to perfection, with total accuracy, to the 100th of a second in time, by taking all the elements into consideration, in order to pinpoint, on his earth, only one location, his beloved, Mount Zion, in Jerusalem, that was written by Yah's own hand, on the stone tablets, as it was given to Moses, to establish his Kawdoshe day, and then program that information into 364 days, and then dividing them into 12 months, which are intercalated, that divide the 4 portions of the year, into the 4 seasons of time, for Yah's yearly calendar, for all mankind to use, as to giving us, the planting times, and harvesting times, in the days of our life. All based upon his Sabbaths, to be separated from all the rest, and his Kawdoshe feast days, as we all come to worship and praise him, in one accord, his kingdom, both in heaven and here on his earth, and we all say, Alleluia. Now where is Mount Zion? Let us read. 2 Samuel 5. Verse 7. David took the stronghold of Zion, the same as the city of David, which identifies Mount Zion. My friends, today they are excavating the ruins, as part of the city of David, and not an area outside of the old city of Jerusalem, as some people proclaim. 1 Debri Chronicles 11, verse 5. Thou shalt not enter in hither. But he took the stronghold of Ha Saton. Zion, this is the city of David. 1 Melachim, Kings 8, verse 1. And it came to pass when Solomon had finished building the house of Elohim, and his own house after 20 years, then King Solomon assembled all the elders of Israel in Ha Saton, Zion, to bring the ark of the covenant of Yah, out of the city of David, this is Ha Saton, Zion. 2 Debri Chronicles 5, verse 2. Then Solomon assembled all the elders of Israel, and all the heads of the tribes, even the leaders of the families of the children of Israel, to Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of Yah, out of the city of David, this is Ha Saton, Zion. My friends, Mount Zion, in Hebrew, Ha Saton, in Arabic, Jebel Zion, is a hill in Jerusalem, where they are digging today. The term Mount Ha Saton, Zion has been used in the Hebrew Bible first, for the city of David, and later for the Temple Mount, but its meaning has shifted, and it is now used as the name of ancient Jerusalem's so-called Western Hill. In a wider sense, the term is also used for the entire land of Israel. Ha Saton is used as a symbol for Jerusalem, Geulah, redemption. Here's something else to consider. In the beginning, Yah's day had 9 hours, and the night had the same, totaling 18 hours in a full day, totaling 1,440 minutes. Later on in his day, Yahushua taught us about the 12-hour day and the night having the same, 24 hours in a full day, now having only 60 minutes per hour, still totaling the same number of 1,440 minutes in a day. So keep this in mind, as we continue our study, O main. My friends, only our Father, Yah has power over night and day, in the heaven to cause the light to give light to men, through his sun, moon, and stars, and all the powers of the heavens, which he controls that revolve in their circular movements, very much like a precise, and most accurate clock of time. How can man comprehend that, even with all our technology, without all knowing the facts of his creation and his overall plan? Can anyone challenge that? Only through the stupidity of mankind. It is done, because there is no love in them, for Yah, and his kingdom, and we all say, Amen. The heavenly calendar of Yah was given to the most righteous man in his day, called Enoch. The ancient book of Enoch shows the original Kawdoshe calendar of Yah, and gives details on the number of days in each of the 12 months. It tells us that the calendar is solar, with a year that has exactly 364 days. It states that the last day of the year, the 31st day, has equal night and equal day parts, hours and minutes. Enoch 72, verses 31 to 33, and on that day the sun rises from the portal, and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the third portal for 1:30 mornings, and sets in the west of the heaven. On that day the night decreases, and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days, 364. This day is not the vernal equinox, as most believe, for the vernal equinox day does not have equal night and day parts. In astronomy, the vernal equinox is defined as a moment or point in time, not a whole day, when the center of the sun can be observed directly above the Earth's equator. The equator is over 2,000 miles away from Mount Sinai, where the Enoch calendar was first given to Moses, so the vernal equinox has absolutely nothing to do with the Kawdoshe calendar. The equator is where the world's equinox is established, but Yah's equinox is established at Mount Har Zion in Jerusalem, which is the center and the shora, navel, of his earth, and Jerusalem is also called there, Libor, heart of his earth. Yah's equinox is established at Mount Zion in Jerusalem, and not at the equator. Over 2,000 miles away from the city of David in Jerusalem. Equinoxes, for day and night, are not exactly of equal length at the time of the March and September equinoxes. The dates on which day and night are each 12 hours occur a few days before and after the equinoxes. The specific dates of this occurrence are different for different latitudes. On the day of an equinox, the geometric center of the sun's disk crosses the equator, and this point is above the horizon for 12 hours everywhere on the earth. However, the sun is not simply a geometric point. Sunrise is defined as the instant when the leading edge of the sun's disk becomes visible on the horizon, whereas sunset is the instant when the trailing edge of the disk disappears below the horizon. These are the moments of first and last direct sunlight. At these times the center of the disk is below the horizon. Furthermore, atmospheric refraction causes the sun's disk to appear higher in the sky than it would if the Earth had no atmosphere. Thus, in the morning the upper edge of the disk is visible for several minutes before the geometric edge of the disk reaches the horizon. Similarly, in the evening the upper edge of the disk disappears several minutes after the geometric disk has passed below the horizon. The times of sunrise and sunset in almanacs are calculated for the normal atmospheric refraction of 34 minutes of arc, and a semi-diameter of 16 minutes of arc, for the disk. Therefore, at the tabulated time the geometric center of the sun is actually 50 minutes of arc below a regular and unobstructed horizon for an observer on the surface of the Earth in a level region. For observers within a couple of degrees of the equator, the period from sunrise to sunset is always several minutes longer than the night. At higher latitudes in the northern hemisphere, the date of equal day and night occurs before the March equinox. Daytime continues to be longer than nighttime, until after the September equinox. In the southern hemisphere, the dates of equal day and night occur before the September equinox, and after the March equinox. In the northern hemisphere, at latitude 5 degrees the dates of equal day and night occur about February 25th, and October 15th, at latitude 40 degrees they occur about March 17th, and September 26th. On the dates of the equinoxes, the day is about 7 minutes longer than the night at latitudes up to about 25 degrees, increasing to 10 minutes or more at latitude 50 degrees. In the Book of Jubilees 8, verse 19, my friends, to back up here in this verse, and he knew that the Garden of Eden is the Kawdoshe of Kawdoshe, and the dwelling of YAH, and the mountain of YAH, even to Horeb, called Sinai by man, the center of the desert, and Mount Ha Saton, Zion the center, and Shorah, navel, of his earth. These three were created as Kawdoshe, places facing each other. As we just covered in Yeshayahu, Isaiah 2 verse 3, Micah 4, verse 2. Now the change of season occurs every 13 weeks, or every 91 days, only 4 days in a year. Each month has 30 days, plus an additional day at the end of each quarter, the 31st day, for the season change, where the sun remains at the same latitude as the 30th day. The word solstice means the sun stays, and it comes from the Latin word solstitium, so the sun stays at the same celestial latitude for 2 days, in order to change seasons. Latitude lines are circular lines going from north to south, from plus 90 degrees to minus 90 degrees. For example, the sun is at the celestial latitude of 0 degrees, on the true equinoxes, March 16th, and September 14th, the 31st days. On the solstices, the sun is at the celestial latitude of 90 degrees north, on June 15th, and is at the celestial latitude of 90 degrees south, on December 14th, the 31st days. In other words, there are 4 days in the year, that are the 31st days, where the sun will remain at the same fixed latitude as that of the 30th days, and will not ascend or decline, so that there is a 360 degrees rotation in 1 year, although there are 364 days in 1 year. The sun remains at celestial latitude of 0 degrees, for 2 days to begin the spring, and it remains at celestial latitude of 90 degrees, north for 2 days to begin the summer, and it remains at celestial latitude of 0 degrees, for 2 days to begin the autumn, and it remains at celestial latitude of 90 degrees, south for 2 days to begin the winter. As explained in the book of Enoch 82, verses 4 to 15, blessed are all the righteous, blessed are all those who walk in the way of righteousness, and sin not as the sinners, in the reckoning of all their days in which the sun traverses the heaven, entering into, and departing from, the portals for 30 days, with the heads of thousands of the order of the stars, together with the 4, which are intercalated, which divide the 4 portions of the year. Now March 16th is the last day of the year, the 364th day, and is the day of equal night, and day in Jerusalem, with the sunrise and sunset times occurring at 5:48 a.m., and solar noon occurring at 11:48 a.m. March 16th is the 7th day Sabbath, and sets the 7th day Sabbaths for the next year, on both the Kanoch calendar, and the Gregorian calendar. March 17th is New Year's Day, in every year, but the world calls this day, the pagan day of St. Patrick. Now the international dateline puts certain countries 1 day ahead of the Jerusalem date, countries between 180 degrees, east longitude to 36 degrees, east longitude, which is from eastern Russia to New Zealand, to western Russia to Kenya. All the countries in between this area will end the year on March 17th, the 7th day Sabbath, and March 18th is New Year's Day. The seventh-day Sabbaths and Kawdoshe days in this region are one day after the Jerusalem dates. If the international dateline would be changed to 35 degrees east longitude, and the prime meridian would be changed to Jerusalem, Jerusalem, instead of Greenwich, then all the countries on earth would be keeping the same dates beginning from Jerusalem. The scriptural calendar of YAH'S is amazing and the most accurate ever created for over 5,500 years. This heavenly calendar of YAH was in the original scriptures that was given to his servant and put into practice by Enoch, over 4,000 years ago. As our Father's restoration continues for his elect in this latter days, and we all say Alleluia. Here is a chart. Please study and learn from it, for the sunrise and sunset at Jerusalem, Israel. From this website, named timeanddate.com, where one could go to get the necessary time for sunrise and sunset for any day during our Father's calendar year. Time of daylight, for example, on November 9th, 2016, is at 6:02 minutes a.m. to 4:43 minutes p.m., totaling 10 hours and 40 minutes of daylight for this day. The chart gives you the present time, so you can compare it to your time. We are using Eastern Standard Time here in the United States, then Jerusalem time is 6 hours ahead of us. If the sunrise in Jerusalem is 6 a.m., then our time would be 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To structure YAH'S day, for his Sabbaths and feast days, based upon his calendar, my friends, we have to be in one accord, at the navel of his earth, the city of David, in Jerusalem, Israel, and no other place on the earth. Therefore, for us in our location, being 6 hours ahead of the sunrise, and then 6 hours before sunset for Eastern Standard Time, as we praise and pray to him, all together, at the same time and day, around the world, to our Father, and his kingdom, in heaven. Amen. Please listen up, my friends, as we cover this verse once again for importance. In the book of Jubilees 8, verse 19, and he knew that the Garden of Eden is the Kawdoshe of Kawdoshe, and the dwelling of the Elohim, and Mount Yahuwah, and Sinai the center of the desert, and what we call Mount Zion the center, and the navel of his earth. These three were created as Kawdoshe, to be separated from all other places, facing each other. To make it easier to see, we made the adjustment at the end of the year, where March 14th and 15th reflects one whole day in the week, like Yehoshua, Joshua's long day. Where Yehoshua, Joshua observed the feasts of booths, and had a reading of the law, in Joshua 8, verses 34 to 35, and after the feast, they were at war until the last day of autumn, which was December 13th, and the 6th day of the week on the YAH'S calendar, given to Enoch. On this day, YAH held back the sun and moon from setting in order to end the war, before the seventh-day Sabbath, and this Sabbath was the winter solstice of December 14th, the shortest day of the year, followed by December 15th, the beginning of the winter season when the sun starts to make the days longer. Time stopped on December 13th, for an additional 24 hours in time, but it was within that same day. Please note, Pope Gregory the 13th advanced his calendar by 10 days, where October 4th was followed by October 15th, in 1582, skipping 10 days. This was done in order to set the winter solstice on the solar festival, called Natalis, Invicti, Solis, the pagan birthday of the invincible sun, which was celebrated on December 25th. The Book of Jubilees 50, verses 12 and 13, and every man who does any work thereon, or goes a journey, or tills his farm, whether in his house or any other place, and whoever lights a fire, or rides on any beast, or travels by ship on the sea, and whoever strikes or kills anything, or slaughters a beast or a bird, 13, or whoever catches an animal or a bird or a fish, or whoever fasts, or makes war on the Sabbaths, the man who does any of these things, on the Sabbath shall die, so that the children of Israel shall observe the Sabbaths, according to the commandments regarding the Sabbaths of the land, as it is written in the tablets, which he gave into my hands that I should write out for thee the laws of the seasons, and the seasons according to the division of their days. The word solstice is from the Latin words sol, sun, stes, stay, or solstitium, solstice, where the sun stays at the same position, or same latitude for 2 days, which is the 30th and 31st days, ending each season on the Karnok, Enoch calendar. The days in Enoch's time and in Joshua's time had 18 parts or moments per day, which is 18 hours per day. When the sun and moon stood still, it was for 36 moments, and this is equal to 2 days, in time that passed, but only 1 whole day in the week. In the Book of Jasher, 88, verses 63 to 65. And when they were smiting, the day was declining toward evening, and Joshua said in the sight of all the people, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon, until the nation shall have revenged itself upon its enemies. 64, And Yah hearkened to the voice of Joshua, and the sun stood still in the midst of the heavens, and it stood still 36 moments, and the moon also stood still, and hastened not to go down a whole day. 65, And there was no day like that, before it or after it, that Yah hearkened to the voice of a man, for he fought for Israel. In the Book of Joshua 10, verses 13 and 14, And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the Book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and hasted not to go down a whole day. 14, And on the day before and after, we heard Yahuwah, and voice of men, for our father fought for Israel. In the Book of Karnok, Enoch 72, verses 25 and 26, And the sun rises on that day from that second portal, and sets in the west in the second portal, and returns to the east, into the first portal for 130 mornings, 26, and sets in the first portal in the west of the heaven. And on that day, the night becomes longer, and amounts to the double of the day, and the night amounts exactly to 12 parts, and the day to 6. Each day has a total of 1,440 minutes per day, whether it is broken down by 18 hours per day, having 80 minutes per hour, or 24 hours per day having 60 minutes per hour. Jerusalem is where the timing begins for the Sabbath day, at dawn. Once again for understanding, my friends, as the sun rises over the Jerusalem area first, the only starting point to be used, no other place on the earth, and then travels westward, rising over Egypt, then to Libya, then to Algeria, then over the Atlantic Ocean to rise over New York, continuing to California, then on to Hawaii, then to Japan, then to China, then to Afghanistan, then to Iran, and then the sun rises over once again, to our heart and navel point, the city that is to be Kawdoshe, in our Father's eyes, Jerusalem area again to begin the next day, where dawn continues moving westward around the earth to begin the next day for all the nations on earth. In the Book of Karnok, Enoch 82, verses 4 to 15, Blessed are all the righteous, blessed are all those who walk in the way of righteousness, and sin not as the sinners, in the reckoning of all their days in which the sun traverses the heaven, entering into and departing from the portals for 30 days, with the heads of thousands of the order of the stars, together with the 4, which are intercalated, which divide the 4 portions of the year, which lead them, and enter with them 4 days. 5, Owing to them men shall be at fault, and not reckon them in the whole reckoning of the year. Yea, men shall be at fault, yes my friends, as they are doing it today with their calendars, of Ha Saton, and not recognize them accurately. 6, for they belong to the reckoning of the year, and are truly recorded thereon, forever, one in the first portal, and one in the third, and one in the fourth, and one in the sixth, and the year is completed in 364 days. 7. And the account thereof is accurate, and the recorded reckoning thereof exact, for the luminaries, and for the months, and festivals, and years and days, has Earl shown and revealed to me, to whom Yah, of the whole creation of the world hath subjected the host of heaven. 8. And he has power over night and day, in the heaven to cause the light to give light to men, the sun, moon, and stars, and all the powers of the heaven, which revolve in their circular chariots. 9. And these are the orders of the stars, which set in their places, and in their seasons, and festivals and months. 10. And these are the names of those who lead them, who watch that they enter at their times, in their orders, in their seasons, in their months, in their periods of dominion, and in their positions. 11. Therefore leaders who divide the 4 parts of the year enter first, and after them the 12 leaders of the orders, who divide the months, and for the 360 days, there are heads over thousands who divide the days, 12, and for the 4 intercalary days, there are the leaders which sunder the 4 parts of the year. 13. And these heads over thousands are intercalated between leader and leader, each behind a station, but their leaders make the division. And these are the names of the leaders who divide the 4 parts of the year which are ordained. 14. The angels of Yah, Milkil, Helemlech, and Melejel, and Nerel, and the names of those who lead them, Adnal, and Ijasusael, and Elamel. These 3 follow the leaders of the orders, and there is one that follows the 3 leaders of the orders, which follow those leaders of stations that divide the 4 parts of the year. 15. In the beginning of the year Melchijel rises first and rules, who is named Tamani, perfection and sun, and all the days of his dominion, whilst he bears rule, are 91 days. These are the archangels listed here: Malchiel, or Melchidel, the archangel of Aries, the constellation of special stars in the heavens. The name of this angel means the fullness of Yah, the governing angel of the first month, what we call mid-March and April. The root word of his name indicates continuity, plenitude and continue movement to the end of his cycle month. As he rises and rules in the beginning of the year, his constellation is seen in the heavens. Is the journey of the sun through Yah. Constellations are of special stars, used as markers for the time of the year, in this case. But Yah's constellations at one time before the written word, were used to explain his creation and his Ben, Yahushua, in the stars. Amen. In the Book of Jubilees 6, verses 29 to 31, and they placed them on the heavenly tablets. Each had 13 weeks, from one to another, past their memorial, from the first to the second, and from the second to the third, and from the third to the fourth. 30. And all the days of the commandment will be 52 weeks of days, and these will make the entire year complete. Thus it is engraven, and ordained on the heavenly tablets. 31. And there is no neglecting this commandment, for a single year or from year to year. There it is, my friends, Yah's stamp of approval, all engraved forever, as it is written on his Kawdoshe tablets, as we all say, Alleluia. Yah calendar was used by David, and he understood that each month had 30 days, plus 1 day at the end of each quarter for the change in season. This is how David knew when the new month began, as it was a Kawdoshe day, a Sabbath or a feast day, that was celebrated by all the Hebrew people. So as we all see, my friends, David used the heavenly calendar of Yah, in his kingdom of David, that was given to a very righteous man, Enoch, as well. Amen. David said, their table will be before them for a snare, and their recompense for a stumbling block. And again, David says, may they be caught and trapped at their feasts, may they fall, may they be punished. let their table, what they eat, what they believe, become for a snare, and for a trap, and for a stumbling block, and make amends to their suffering. For they are not following the true and heavenly calendar of Yahuwah, given to Kanoch. For their feast days and Sabbaths, they are all in error, the wrong days, by using the moon, the calendar of Ha Saton, for we are not the children of the night, but the children of the light, for we follow the sun, and not the moon, or main. Your table is where one eats, not food, but his spiritual food, and they will have a hunger for it. May they fall, may they be punished, unless they repent, to be born from above in Yah's kingdom, once again, and follow only the right path to the Hebrew Mashiach. Amen. Now written in Tehillim, Psalm 69, may their banquets cause their ruin, may their sacred feasts cause their downfall. Strike them with blindness. Make their backs always weak. Why? For they will carry heavy loads, for hard times are coming. Pour out your anger on them, let your indignation overtake them. May their camps be left deserted, may no one be left alive in their tents. Your tent is your spiritual house, meaning they are spiritually dead. They persecute those whom you have punished, they talk about the sufferings of those you have wounded. So, if the year is 364 days, where did the 365 day come from? Man has created a sidereal year, that is based on his sidereal days, which creates more than 364 days in a year, by going against our Father, Yah. In fact, there are 365 and 1/4 days. The Mitzrayim, Egyptians as well as the countries of the East, used a calendar with a 360-based year, as does the true and only Creator's calendar, that was given to Kanoch, Enoch, because their instructions came through Enoch, then Noah, after the flood, and was passed down to Abraham, and Joseph, the one whom brought it to Egypt. The earliest Egyptian calendar was based on the moon's cycles, but the lunar calendar failed to predict a critical event in their lives, the annual flooding of the Nile River. The Egyptians soon noticed that the first day the dog star, which they call Sirius, in the constellation of Canis Major, was visible right before sunrise was special. The Egyptians were the first to adopt a mainly solar calendar. This so-called heliacal rising always preceded the flood by a few days. Based on this knowledge, they devised a 365-day calendar that seems to have begun in 4236 BCE, the earliest recorded year in history. They eventually had a system of 36 stars to mark out the year, and in the end had 3 different calendars working concurrently for over 2000 years. A stellar calendar for agriculture, a solar year of 365 days, 12 months times 30 days, plus they added 5 extra days. The ancient Egyptians originally employed a calendar based upon the moon, and, like many peoples throughout the world, they regulated their lunar calendar by means of the guidance of a sidereal calendar. They used the seasonal appearance of the star Sirius, Sothis. This corresponded closely to the true solar year, being only 12 minutes shorter. Certain difficulties arose, however, because of the inherent incompatibility of lunar and solar years. To solve this problem, the Egyptians invented a schematized civil year of 365 days divided into 3 seasons, each of which consisted of 4 months of 30 days each. To complete the year, 5 intercalary days were added at its end, so that the 12 months were equal to 360 days plus 5 extra days. This civil calendar was derived from the lunar calendar, using months, and the agricultural, or Nile, fluctuations, using seasons. It was, however, no longer directly connected to either, and thus was not controlled by them. The civil calendar served government and administration, while the lunar calendar continued to regulate religious affairs and everyday life. Since Mitzrayim, Egypt at this time was the world power, this calendar model then spread throughout the region, and into Europe. Later on their calendar was inherited by the Greeks, then Rome, which now still rules, under their unified church, in the world. The Jews who are not Jews, not from tribe of Judah, but Kenites, are using a similar calendar, that is both lunar and solar based, today, putting them in error, as to YAH'S true Sabbath days, O main. What are solar days and sidereal days? Solar time is time measured with respect to the sun's apparent motion in the sky. The clocks we use for civil timekeeping are based on this motion. Of course, the apparent motion of the sun across the sky is actually caused by the rotation of the earth. So, our clocks measure the length of time required for the earth to rotate once with respect to the sun. From our perspective, the sun revolves around the earth every 24 hours. This period is known as a solar day. Sidereal time is time measured with respect to the apparent motion of the fixed stars in the sky due to the Earth's rotation. While the Earth is rotating on its axis, it is also moving along its orbit around the Sun. Over the course of a day the Earth moves about 1 degree along its orbit, 360 degrees in a full orbit divided by 365.25 days, in a year is about 1 degree. Therefore, from our perspective, the Sun moves about 1 degree, from west to east with respect to the fixed stars. All of this means that according to our clocks, which are based on solar time, a given star will rise or set about 4 minutes earlier each day. The Earth rotates 15 degrees in 1 hour, therefore, 24 hours in a day, divided into 360 degrees, so then, 1 degree of rotation is equivalent to about 4 minutes of time. For example, a star that rises at 9 p.m., or the 21st hour, tonight will rise 4 minutes earlier, at the 8 hour and 56 minutes p.m., or by using a 24-hour clock, would be 20 hours and 56 minutes p.m., tomorrow, and at 8:56 p.m., or at 20:58 the next night. 1 month later that star will rise, or set 2 hours earlier. In other words, from our perspective, the stars revolve around the Earth in only 23 hours and 56 minutes. This period is known as a sidereal day. All the math is based upon their shorter day, in order to deceive the world, but not YAH'S elect, my friends, O main. The apparent yearly path that the sun tracks on the celestial sphere is called the ecliptic, the projection of Earth's orbital plane on the celestial sphere. This circular path is tilted by 23.5 degrees, with respect to the celestial equator, because the Earth's rotation axis is tilted by 23.5 degrees, with respect to its orbital plane. YAH'S stars, his set of constellations, through which the ecliptic passes. Note how on about the 21st of June, the sun reaches its highest point, and on about the 21st of December reaches its lowest point, and how on about 21st of March, and 21st of September it passes through the celestial equator. So while the sun remains approximated, fixed in south, the stars are moving from east to west at a steady rate. Here we are just seeing the reflection of the Earth's motion around the sun. Note as the Earth, in the example, is your viewpoint, moves around the sun, the various planets move in and out of view, approximately tracking the ecliptic. As is the case with solar days, sidereal days are also divided into hours, minutes, and seconds. Naturally, these hours, minutes, and seconds are shorter than the solar hours, minutes, and seconds you are now familiar with. One solar day is 24 solar hours long, and one sidereal day is 23 solar hours and 56 solar minutes long. This where the confusion takes place, as man follows other men and not our Heavenly Father, YAH. This information was based on a help of CyberSky. A shareware version of CyberSky is available from www.cybersky.com. The science of man, that eats from the tree of knowledge of Ha Saton, which is all a delusion, and against YAH, claims that 365.25 days is a solar year, from equinox to equinox. But that is not true, because their definition of a solar day is incorrect, according to YAH. Now let us explain. My friends, interestingly, this change started about the time that the Hebrews, the unfaithful 10 tribes, were kicked out of the land, about 721 BC. It was prophesied through Hosea, that the Sabbaths and Kawdoshe days would be taken. The major conversion, to the Babylonian moon, that is still being used today by those claiming to be Jews, that are not, but Kenites, and Mitzrayim, Egyptians, were using sidereal, which is star-focused. For the rest, Judah, came later during the time of the Greeks, in 332 to 141 BCE, as recorded in the Book of Maccabees, meaning hammer, but was further solidified after the 70 AD dispersion, and the destruction of the temple, by Rome. Yeshayahu, Isaiah 1, verse 14, I hate your new moon festivals and your appointed feasts, they have become a burden to me, I am weary of bearing them. Why is that? For they are all wrong and based upon pagan beliefs and structure. Not part of his Kawdoshe days, and certainly not part of his calendar, that was written down on his tablets of stone, given to Moshe. Hosea 2, verse 11, I will put an end to all her mirth, her feasts, her new moons, her Sabbaths, and all her appointed feasts. Once again, YAH is going to put an end to all of their pagan days, as they rebelled against him, and his inspired word. As his restoration continues in these end days, by restoring his day and his calendar of Sabbaths, as it once was in the very beginning, Amen. The new moon calendar was the official calendar of the Greeks, and when Alexander the Great conquered the Middle East in the 4th century BCE, this evil lunar calendar was introduced, and was gradually accepted by most of the people, except for the Hebrews. At that time, in 172 BCE, when King Antiochus appointed Menelaus, as Jerusalem's high priest, to introduce the Greek way of educating the young people, and to completely Hellenize the Hebrew people. He also sent a senator from Athens to give the Hebrews an ultimatum, to forsake the laws of their Elohim, YAH, and to follow the king's orders or to be put to death. So most of them followed the king's orders to save their families, but many were put to death. King Antiochus forced the Hebrew people to celebrate the birthday of the month, every month, at the time of the moon's first visibility, its crescent, and they are still following this pagan belief today. Hephaestion, of Thebes, was an astrologer in the 5th century CE, who compiled the historical Hellenistic astrology records in his research work, called Apotlysmatics. Hephaestion quotes King Antiochus, saying that the new moon is the time when the moon is born, and is the birthday of the month. But Antiochus, of Athens also said, that this method has a certain truth to it. Observe. He says on a given day that the moon is born, and to this number add 180, and always deduct 29, from the birthday of the month. In 169 BCE, King Antiochus returned to Jerusalem after his second campaign in Egypt, and he immediately banned the Hebrew religion, and the Enoch calendar, and prohibited all religious practices. He dedicated the temple in Jerusalem to Zeus, the master of heaven, Baal-Shaman, and ordered the Hebrew people to worship Zeus, and to participate in the festival honoring Dionysus, who was Zeus' son, who was called Bacchus by the Romans. This festival, called Bacchanalia, was held on March 16th and March 17th, to pollute the Hebrew spring equinox day, and YAH'S New Year's Day. When King Antiochus began sacrificing swine and making abominable offerings in the temple, this began the Maccabean revolt. Their books are banned by most religions in the world. Why? Because they expose the truth of YAH, Amen. So then let us read a few verses as his Ruach Kawdoshe leads us today. 2 Maccabees 6, verses 1 and 2, Not long after this, the king sent an Athenian senator, to compel the Jews to forsake the laws of their fathers, and cease to live by the laws of YAH, verse 2, and also to pollute the temple in Jerusalem, and call it the temple of Olympian Zeus, and to call the one in Gerizim, the temple of Zeus, the friend of strangers, as did the people who dwelt in that place. 2 Maccabees 6, verse 7, on the monthly birthday celebration, the king had the Jews taken, under bitter constraint, to partake of the sacrifices, and when the feast of Dionysus came, they were forced to walk in the procession in honor of Dionysus, wearing wreaths of ivy. 1 Maccabees 1, verses 41 to 51, then the king wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, 42, and that each should give up his customs. 43, all the Gentiles accepted the command of the king. Many even from Israel gladly adopted his religion, they sacrificed to idols and profaned the Sabbath. 44, and the king sent letters by messengers to Jerusalem and the cities of Judah. He directed them to follow customs strange to the land. 45, to forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices, and drink offerings in the sanctuary, to profane Sabbaths and feasts. 46, to defile the sanctuary and the priests. 47, to build altars and sacred precincts, and shrines for idols, to sacrifice swine and unclean animals. 48, and to leave their sons uncircumcised. They were to make themselves abominable by everything unclean and profane. 49, so that they should forget the law and change all the ordinances. Note, they are still keeping them to this present day. 50, and whoever does not obey the command of the king shall die. 51, in such words he wrote to his whole kingdom. And he appointed inspectors over all the people, and commanded the cities of Judah to offer sacrifice, city by city. The Dionysus, Bacchus, festival is still celebrated to this day, and it's called Mardi Gras, and it includes the Bacchus parade. The date of this celebration was later changed to be on the day before Ash Wednesday, and their name called New Year's Day, in March 17th, was later changed to be called St. Patrick's Day, and it is the welcome sign of the first day of spring, with its festivals of green clothes, green hats, green food, and green drinks, to name a few of the things they did in honor of Bacchus. When days are added to a calendar, which is essentially what happened in this case, it usually occurs before the end of the year. For example, February 29th is added every 4 years, because March 1st was the beginning of the year in ancient Rome. The first of the month, January, took first place in 1600 in Scotland. The original Roman calendar, as lunar-based, and Ides in Latin, or Ides in English, as to the Ides of March, was thought to have been the day of the full moon, and was the 13th day of the month, having 29 days. But the 15th day of March. Now the months of May, July, and October are in the months, with 31 days. If the Enoch year truly starts on March 16th, but this not the case, for the 16th is last day of the year on YAH'S calendar, then this, March 15th, the day mostly notable in ancient times, as a deadline for settling debts, would be the day to remove the added days, after the time is taken back, and January 29th for the leap day, another day that was created to fix their faulty creation of 365.25 days, equals 365 plus 1/4, as to the 4 parts of their day. So then, my friends, now you can get a true picture how man changed the heavenly calendar of YAH. That was given to only Kanoch, O Main. The year will always have 8,736 hours, whether it is a 365-day Gregorian, or YAH'S true day calendar of his year, not man's, having exactly 24 hours per day. But the difference lie in their creation of a 365 sidereal day, which is calculated by them to be 23,93,425 hours per day, or their 366 leap day of 23.86885 hours per day, and that difference is only a reduction in minutes and seconds from YAH's original 24-hour day, to only create by them these extra days. Because each Gregorian day is not a true day, in the calendar of truth, by only YAH, his true solar days 24 hours, that are not equal to their sidereal day. For this speaks against the heavenly truth of our Father, YAH, for it is written by Kawdoshe, Enoch, the sun and the stars brings on the year in perfection to 364 days. Not 365 or 366. Kawdoshe, Enoch chapters 72 and 74. My friends, to keep it simple, YAH's calendar has 24 hours in a day. All the other calendars created by men come up short in hours of their full day, but by adding those fractions of an hour for the year back in, only forms additional days, where they go wrong, and from their own calculations, which still total 8,736 hours in a year, as originally created on YAH's calendar, of 24 hours per day, totaling also 8,736 hours in a year as well, as we all say, Alleluia. Kawdoshe, Enoch heavenly calendar is determined by the sun and the stars, giving us a year of exactly 364 days that have exactly 24 hours in each day. The Julian and Gregorian calendars are determined by the stars only, the zodiac constellations that are ruled by planets, what they call their Elohims, and their planets are called wandering stars. There are 5 visible wandering stars in the heavens: Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus and Saturn, plus we also have the Sun and Moon, and each one rules over one day, in the week on the Gregorian calendar. One must remember that these are evil names, and also the names they call their stars, for YAH's angels were created on day 1 of the creation week, in Jubilees 2, verses 2 and 3, and the stars, Sun and Moon were created on day 4 of that week, and they are different creations having different functions, that is for many of his archangels rule over them, having responsibility for leading the sun, stars, and moon through the heavenly portals, in order to keep perfect timing over the earth, by controlling their light, darkness, seasons, weather, and sea levels, in the book of Kawdoshe, Enoch 75 verse 1, 80 verse 1, and 82 verses 4 to 20. Job 38, verse 7, in the dawn of that day the stars sang together, and the heavenly beings shouted for joy. Good News Translation. 1978. When the stars were made, all my angels praised me with a loud voice. Brenton Septuagint Translation. Another ruling star they use is called Hamel, in constellation Aries, and it is the Gregorian calendar's equinox star, gives a year of 365 days that have 23 hours, 56 minutes and about 5 seconds per day, in its circuit. The Egyptians associated constellation Aries, with the horned ram, that represented their Elohim, called Amen, meaning the hidden one. That is the main reason we don't use it any longer in our studies, my friends. Amen. Shemoth, Exodus 23, verse 13, and in all things that I have said to you be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other Elohims, neither let it be heard out of your mouth. Kawdoshe, Enoch 74, verse 12, and the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly, so that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day, unto eternity, but complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days. Jubilees 2, verses 9 and 10, and YAH appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth for days, and for Sabbaths, and for months, and for feasts, and for years, and for Sabbaths of years, and for Jubilees, and for all seasons of the years. Note, no mention of the moon, as the Jews use today. Amen. The Julian calendar reduced each hour of the day 9.86 seconds, so that the hour has about 59 minutes and 50 seconds, and the change was so subtle that the Hebrew people were unaware that this minor change could affect their Sabbath day. The 9.86 seconds per hour equates to almost 4 minutes per day, 3.9452 minutes per day, or 236.7 seconds per day, that is taken out of each of the 364 days to create the 365th day, that is March 15th. This is why their days are called sidereal days, as the days have 23 hours, and 56 minutes, and about 5 seconds, and it is not calculated into a true 24-hour day. The 365th created day by man, March 15th, is inserted into the calendar each year next to the last day of the year, which is March 16th, on YAH'S calendar. The same procedure is followed again to create a leap day every 4th year, where additional minutes are taken out of each of the original 364 days to create the 366th day, February 29th, which is inserted into the Gregorian calendar at the end of the 50th week every 4th year. In example, February 2nd, in the years of 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020 to name a few, for every 4 years. It is interesting to note that February 29th will always fall on Karnok, Enoch's 7th day, on the true Sabbath of YAH, Omain. Jubilees 6, verses 37 and 38, for this reason the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order, and make an abominable day, the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day, and they will confound all the days, the Kawdoshe, with the unclean, and the unclean day with the Kawdoshe, for they will go wrong as to the months, and Sabbaths, and feasts and Jubilees. 38. For this reason I command, and testify to thee that thou mayst testify to them, for after thy death thy children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only, and for this reason they will go wrong as to the new months, and seasons, and Sabbaths, and festivals, and they will eat all kinds of blood, with all kinds of flesh. Omain. The following example in 5 years showing that a Saturday, Sabbath is not possible falling on the right day every year, using the Gregorian calendar. For it is an illusion, and is deceptive in showing the true 7th day of YAH, because when the 365th day, and 366th day is added to their calendar, the name order will rotate to different days on their calendar. Although the number for each day does not change its order, the first day to 7th day, but the name for each day does change. Sunday to Saturday, and their week can begin and end on any day from Sunday to Saturday. When the 365th day, this day, is counted as 0, is inserted into their calendar every year in their 52nd week, their Saturday shifts back 1 day, and when the 366th day, another day counted as 0, is inserted into their calendar every 4th year in the 52nd week, their Saturday shifts back 2 days. In other words, the day they call Saturday, will fall on any day of their week from the 7th day through the 6th day of the week. This is what happens to them, and their Sabbath days are actual floating during the 7 days of the week. They miss the mark on YAH'S true heavenly days, by worshipping him on the wrong days, as you will see. Omain. Example of 7th day Sabbath on Gregorian calendar below. First year, Saturday, shifts back 1 day, to the 6th day of the week. Second year, Saturday, shifts back 1 day, to the 5th day of the week. Third year, Saturday, shifts back 1 day, to the 4th day of the week. Fourth year, Saturday, shifts back 2 days to the 2nd day of the week. Fifth year, Saturday, shifts back 1 day, to the 1st day of the week. So as you can see, their calendar adds days, it's structured wrong, including their leap years, what we call 0 days, as to YAH'S calendar based upon a full 24-hour day cycle. In fact, YAH'S Sabbath on his calendar falls on the 7th day in the first month of YAH'S new year, but that is not the case on their calendar, because of their leap year for 2016, as to their added minutes, which only adds additional days to their year. Therefore, YAH'S first Sabbath day falls on the day of Wednesday, March 16th, by using their calendar for this time period. Amen. The 365th and 366th added days are 0, an illusion, and do not exist on YAH'S calendar, which we just covered, showing what day of the week their so-called Saturday Sabbath falls on. During the first 5 years, when using the 365th day, March 15th, and the 366th day, February 29th, that were originally added by them to their calendar, the 7 days of the week are in fixed and permanent positions forever, but the names given of their days that have been assigned to the 7 days are not in fixed, in permanent positions, because the 52-week was changed by them by adding 8 to 9 days in that week, which caused their name day Saturday to shift back every year to a different day of the week in the continuous 7-day count. So, Saturday now has become a floating day in their man-made calendars, and it is not the true and 7th-day Sabbath in every year in the Creator's heavenly calendar. Amen. This process continues yearly on their Gregorian calendar, and the true 7th-day Sabbath will begin on a different day of the week, Sunday to Saturday, starting on the first day of the year, which is March 16th, the day of equal night and equal day in Jerusalem, and this is the sign of the true Sabbath day of YAH. Amen. As you can see, it's impossible for Saturday to be the 7th-day Sabbath in every year because they added 2 days. Although the number order of the days remain fixed, 1st day to 7th day, but their corresponding name order given to their days, Sunday to Saturday, changes position. This is very important to understand because only the weekly 7th day is the Kawdoshe day, and not by their name they call Saturday. For their 7th day will be on a different named day in their week, beginning every March 16th for a whole year. The 7th-day Sabbath can only be on a fixed name day in the week, on YAH'S calendar of 364 days, having exactly 52 weeks, and not 52 weeks plus 2 days as on their Gregorian calendar. This is clear to see on the Enoch 364-day calendar that does not have the Roman names Sunday through Saturday on it, that excludes the name day of 3/15 every year, and the name day 3/14 that corresponds to the 30th day, on the 12th month, and it is excluded every 4th year, when the 2/29 day is included. One only needs to remember that March 16th is the last day of the year, and the last Sabbath day of the year, in every year, and to count to every 7th day thereafter, that is March 23rd, 30th, April 6th, 13th, etc., to observe the Kawdoshe Sabbath day. March 16th is the day of equal night and equal day, the sign of the true and only Sabbath day. On the Roman calendar, March 15th marked the beginning of the consular year in the Republic, when 2 elected Roman consuls and augurs, priests, took office for a 1-year term, from March 15th to March 14th. The consular year had 10 months, of 30 days each, plus 4 days that end the seasons, 2 equinox days, and 2 solstice days being 304 days in total. The Romulus calendar took away 2 months of 30 days, and if those 2 months were put back into the calendar, it would be the Enoch calendar, ending the year on the 30th day of the 12th month, with the season change day, following it on the 31st day, the spring equinox, which is now called March 16th. Later, in 700 BCE, King Numa Pompilius added the months of January and February, because their equinox day was occurring in different months on the Romulus calendar, and March 15th became January 1st. March 16th is the last day of the year, the 364th day, and is the day of equal night and day in Jerusalem, with the sunrise and sunset times both occurring at 5:48 a.m. and p.m., with solar noon occurring at 11:48 a.m. March 16th is the 7th-day Sabbath, and sets the 7th-day Sabbaths for the next year, on both Karnoch, Enoch calendar, and the Gregorian calendar. March 17th is New Year's Day in every year, but the world calls this day St. Patrick's Day. The old Book of Jubilees, as called Little Genesis, was written during this time, and it preserved the Enoch calendar. It warned the Hellenistic Jews to guard themselves against keeping the Athenian calendar, that begins the year on the first new moon, after the summer solstice. The writers of the Book of Jubilees feared that if the Hebrew people observed the Athenian calendar, and King Antiochus' monthly new moon birthday festival, that begins the Greek months, that they would forget the Enoch calendar, and YAH'S 12 months of 364 days. Because they would lose track of their Sabbath day, and forget their monthly festivals on the first day of each solar month, and forget the annual feast days, as they are all on fixed days every year, based on the last day of the year on the 31st day, with equal day and night, in Jerusalem, and then starts YAH'S New Year. Jubilees 6, verses 34 to 38, and all the children of Israel will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the months, and seasons, and Sabbaths, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. For I know, and from henceforth will I declare it unto thee, and it is not of my own devising, for the book lies, written before me, and on the heavenly tablets. The division of days is ordained, lest they forget the feasts of the covenant, and walk according to the feasts of the Gentiles, after their error and after their ignorance. For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon, and how it disturbs the seasons, and comes in from year to year, 10 days too soon. Note, my friends, their book lies. What book is that? The Bible they are using, then and even today. For this reason the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order, and make an abominable day, the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day, and they will confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, and the unclean day with the holy, for they will go wrong as to the months and Sabbaths and feasts and jubilees. For this reason I command and testify to thee that thou mayst testify to them, for after thy death thy children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only, and for this reason they will go wrong as to the months and seasons and Sabbaths and festivals, and they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. My friends, first they add a day to YAH'S calendar, now totaling 365, and what they call a leap year by adding another day, now totaling 366 days. Second, eating all kinds of flesh, including pig, for the true Hebrews were vegetarians. Next, the birthday of the month festival was observed by most of the Hebrew people because they feared King Antiochus. After the death of King Antiochus, in 164 BCE, some of the Hebrew priests tried to restore the solar calendar, but the Greek new moon influence was all around them. Later, in 359 CE, Hillel II introduced the fixed calculated new moon calendar that is based on the conjunction of the earth, moon, and sun, and this lunar calendar has been used by Jews and others to this day, to determine the first day of the months, and the annual feast days. However, the term new moon, YAH'S, is not written anywhere in the Hebrew scriptures. The scriptures only use the word month, Chodesh, and it pertains to a solar month. The translators mixed up a few of the Hebrew words due to vowel point errors, like Chodesh, which means either months, or new month, and the word Chodesh, which means new. They also confused the word YAH, which means month, as in a complete month, with the word YAH, which means moon, and this is where the translation error of new moon came into the various books and Bibles. as it was commonly known that the Hebrew people observed the new moon, and kept a new moon festival, every month. However, observing the new moon is not commanded in the Torah, nor is the term new moon ever mentioned in the whole Tanakh. When you look at the original Hebrew text, and the word moon, YAH, is only mentioned 3 times in the Torah, of which 2 times are warnings not to worship or serve the moon. My beloved friends, let the restoration of understanding continue as we pray from the heart and weep for them that are lost in this world. Now only the guidance and understanding as the Spirit of truth leads us to the full wisdom of our Elohim, both the Father and His Son. Amen. Today, there is so much confusion over the original calendar of the Scriptures. This confusion was predicted in the books of Chanah, Enoch, Daniel, Jubilees, Jasher, and Maccabees, including many words as used in verses in your Bible pertaining to our subject here, as mankind left his first love, of Yahuwah. Amen. Now here we have, my friends, Enoch's perpetual 364-day Sabbath and festival calendar, for the year of 2016. Here we are showing, the first day and first month, as the season begins. The first season is spring, for the new year. The 7th-day Sabbaths are all listed, as well as the Kawdoshe days, his feast days, and his Jubilees. The months are separated by another color background. This page is a list of the first 6 months. The Sabbaths are on the 7th day, where they belong. We have given you the month and the day, where YAH'S Sabbaths fall on the Gregorian calendar, which are in total error, as you can see. Note the pattern of the months: first month, 30 days, second month, 30 days, and third month 31 days. Totaling 91 days, as the seasons change every 91 days. And this pattern continues throughout the years on YAH'S calendar. We have programmed the dates of the Gregorian calendar into YAH'S calendar for your understanding only. We start with the 7 days. Note no names of the days, as created by man. The calendar is numbered from the first day to the last day of the year, totaling 364 days. From Jerusalem going westward to the international date line, west of the date line the dates are 1 day ahead. For example, spring falls on March 18th, summer falls on June 17th, autumn falls on September 16th, and winter falls on December 16. Please understand this final point, that Jerusalem is our only starting point, based upon their time and day, for all in the world to follow, in one accord, with the Jerusalem here on the earth, and the one above, all based upon our Heavenly Father's time and His day, and not by any man's time, and never by his day, as we all say Alleluia. Here is the second part of Enoch's perpetual calendar of 364 days for the year of 2016, starting with his Feast of Trumpets, as we all celebrate, falling on September 15th, on the Gregorian calendar. We are showing the 7th month and the first day, as autumn begins, and also we have YAH'S Kawdoshe days, Sabbaths and feast days. Once again the pattern continues with the months, 30, 30 and 31 days, totaling 91 days, as the seasons change throughout the remaining 6 months. Now in the regular years, the names, as March 14th and March 15th represent 1 day, in Joshua's long day, and March 16th is the 364th day, that ends the year in YAH'S calendar. When February 29 is added by man, the names March 1st to March 14th, change to February 29th to March 13th, as you will see in one of our next 3 frames. For the month they call March, is YAH'S first month, the beginning of his year. The years show for the first month, on the Gregorian calendar for their month call March, 2016, 2017 and 2018, for your review and to use as starting points for these 3 years. Note, the 16th day of the Gregorian calendar, is a 7th-day Sabbath starting point for the new year, and the last 31st day of the month, meaning the last day of YAH'S 364th day calendar, that has equal night and equal day, meaning hours and minutes in Jerusalem. 5:48 AM and PM, for sunrise and sunset. Here we have this year, 2016, a leap year, to review. First YAH'S of Sabbath for 2015, falls on the name day, Monday. But for 2016, it falls on the name day, Wednesday, on the Gregorian calendar for their month called March. This move of 2 days ahead was based upon the extra day of 365 and they're adding another day for their leap year. Their March 16th is the last day, and sets the mark for YAH'S Sabbaths for the new year, the first day of the year, as spring begins, on March 17th, on their Gregorian calendar. Here we have the year, 2017, a regular year, meaning no changes to their calendar. The first of YAH'S Sabbath for 2017, falls on their name day, Thursday, by only adding 1 day, for their 365 days. Their March 16th is the last day, and sets the mark for YAH'S Sabbaths for the new year, the first day of the year, as spring begins, on March 17th, on their Gregorian calendar. Here we have the year, 2018, a regular year, meaning no changes to their calendar. The first of YAH'S Sabbath for 2018, falls on their name day, Friday, by only adding 1 day, for their 365 days. Their March 16th is the last day, and sets the mark for YAH'S Sabbaths for the new year, the first day of the year, as spring begins, on March 17th, on their Gregorian calendar. My friends, as you can see how simple it is to make the necessary adjustments, to follow YAH'S true Kawdoshe days, when using the Gregorian calendar, and we all say Alleluia. Note, you can visit on the web, enochcalendars.webs.com, for the yearly calendar dates, throughout the years. We have come to the end of our study, of YAH'S scriptural calendar, that is totally amazing and 100% accurate, as it was originally created over 5,500 years ago, and written by the hand of Enoch, one of his most faithful and loving servants. Amen. The YAH'S scriptural calendar is the only precise calendar in all of human history, which only the original scriptures as first written by those of YAH'S have finally restored, with the help of Ruach Kawdoshe, his spirit, in the world, today. Amen. My friends, YAH'S love never fails to them that seek him with a full heart. Even though our study is directed to his elect, and the 144,000 that are being sealed in these end days. But there are many who sincerely love Elohim, pray and seek for truth. All of these know the soft testimony of the Ruach of Yahuwah in various degrees, before they know Yahuwah's name, his original inspired word, or experience conversation to the way. Yet, some of these are the ones who know his voice, and will rejoice over all scriptural truths. The counterfeits, and the pretenders, led by alien spirits, will always fight scriptural truth, defending popular fossilized religious myths. Therefore, expect to find some worshipping, in the spirit of YAH, but using false names and even pagan customs, but whose pure heart will qualify to receive his call in time of Yahuwah to covenant, because they have sought forth truth with sincerity, and have already come to know his true spirit, in their pilgrimage, prayer, and seeking Yahuwah, in pure love. He never fails. He will fill every position, every seat in his wonderful forever family. No matter how long it takes, to convert all seekers into full Yahu ones. He will save all who will honestly seek him. Just like a loving father, he never gives up on his children, as long as there is one breath left in their life. Love never fails, seek and you will find. And we all say welcome. Our video study was presented from the congregation of Smyrna. Now let us leave you in Rakam, compassion and to love the brotherhood, and Shulam, as we leave you in peace. Amen.